Good morning everyone, my name is Jayjeet and my topic for today is process scheduling algorithm. So let's start. Before going into process scheduling algorithms, let's talk about what is process scheduling. So process scheduling is the task of selecting a waiting process from the ready queue and allocating the CPU to that process. We remove some process from the CPU and assign the CPU to some other process. This is very important for processes like multitasking. So now let's see the next topic, that is process scheduling queues. In scheduling, we maintain different queues from the different state of the processes, and in the queues PCB of the process are stored. When the state of a process changes, the process is moved from one queue to the another queue. We can see that there are primarily three types of queues, that are job queue, ready queue and device queue. All the processes which are new are placed in the job queue. The ready queue is the place where we store all the queues which are ready for execution. All the processes which are waiting for some input output operation are stored in the device queue. Let's see how it works with the help of a diagram. So when a process P1 is new to the system, it is placed in the job queue, and then when it is ready for execution, it is removed from the job queue and placed in the ready queue. After when the CPU is allocated to the process P1, it moves from the ready queue to the CPU. If it requires some input output operation, it moves from the CPU to the input output waiting queue until it gets the input output. If the CPU is taken from the process at any time before completion of the process moves from the CPU to the ready queue. If all the task of the process is completed, then the CPU is exited by the process and process is terminated. Context switch. So the next topic is context switch. Context switch is a very important topic to understand scheduling algorithms. When a process moves out of the CPU, its state, or that is the context, needs to be saved so that it can be resumed or executed from the same place where it has left. When it is executed later, let's understand with the help of a diagram. So you can see that process P1, when exits the CPU, its state is saved in its PCB. Then P2 is loaded, so its PCB has to be loaded into the CPU so that its execution can be resumed from where it left. Then P2 left the CPU, so its state has to be saved, and then P1 is again loaded, so its PCB will be loaded and its execution will be started from the same point where it left off. So the next topic is scheduling criteria. The first criteria is CPU utilization. CPU utilization depends on the load on the CPU. So the CPU utilization should be maximized. More is the CPU utilization, more better it is. But since CPU utilization depends on the load of the system, it is not a good criteria for scheduling algorithms. Next topic is throughput. Throughput is the work done per unit time. So more is the number of tasks, more is the throughput. As it depends on the number of tasks, throughput is also not a good criteria for scheduling algorithms. Next topic is turnaround time. Turnaround time is the time difference between the completion time of a process and the arrival time of a process. Next topic is waiting time. Waiting time is the time spent by the process in the waiting queue. Next topic is response time. In some systems, turnaround time is not the best criteria, so another criteria is introduced, that is the response time. Response time is the time difference between the first response that we get and the arrival time of the process. Now let's get started with the scheduling algorithm. So our first scheduling algorithm is first come first serve, that is FCFS. It is the most simple and easiest way to execute a scheduling algorithm. In this, the process which comes first is served first and the process that comes last is served last. So let's see an example of FCFS. In this we can see four processes, P1, P2, P3, P4. So the arrival of P1 is at earliest, so P1 will be executed first. Then P2 arrives, so then P2 will be executed, then P3 and then 4 simultaneously. So then you can see the Gantt chart, that is P1 is executed first, then P2, then P3 and then P4. Then we can calculate the turnaround time for each processes and then calculate the average turnaround time, that is 21.5. Similarly, we can calculate the waiting time for each process and the average waiting time, that is 11.5. The next scheduling algorithm is shortest job first. Shortest job first is the algorithm in which the job, that is the process which has the shortest CPU burst, that is the smallest CPU burst, is executed first. This scheduling can be of two types, preemptive and non-preemptive. So let's see the example of both the types of shortest job first algorithms. First is the non-preemptive shortest job first. In this, if the CPU is assigned to the process, it will come out only after completion of the process, not before. So there are 5 processes, P1, P2, P3, P4, P5. So the shortest job at time 0 is P1. So P1 is assigned the CPU. P1 executes from 0 to 10. At time 10 we have 4 more processes, P2, P3, P4, P5. So the shortest job at that time is P5, that is of 2 size. So P5 is executed, then P2 is executed, that is of size 6, then P4 is executed, that is of size 8, and then P3, which is the largest size, that is 14, is executed at last. So similarly we can calculate the turnaround time like we calculated last time by subtracting completion time minus arrival time, and similarly the waiting time, that is subtracting turnaround time minus CPU burst, and then we can calculate the average waiting time. We can see the average waiting time in shortest job first is lesser than the FCFS. Now this is the preemptive shortest job first. We can also call it shortest remaining time first. You can see there are 5 processes, P1, P2, P3, P4, P5. So first at time 0 P1 we have, so P1 starts executing. At time 2 we get P2, which is of size 6, and 8 bytes of P1 are left. So P2 is smaller than P1. So CPU is taken from P1 and assigned to P2. So P2 starts executing. As no other process is smaller than P2, P2 completes its execution at 8. Then we see at time 8 which process is the smallest one. We see that P1 is the smallest, so P1 is assigned the CPU. But at 9 another process comes, that is P5, which is smaller than P1. So P1 is removed from the CPU and P5 is assigned to the CPU. P5 starts execution and completes its execution at 11. Then we see which is the shortest job. We get it, that is the P1 of size 7. So P1 is assigned to the CPU. It completes its execution at 18. Then we see which is the smallest, that is P4 is executed, and at last P3 is executed. Similarly, we can also calculate the turnaround time and the waiting time for this also, and at last calculate the average waiting time, that is 8.20. The next algorithm that we are going to see is priority algorithm. In this, each process is assigned a priority and they are executed based on their priority. The highest priority being the 0 and simultaneous 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If 2 processes have the similar priority, they are executed on the basis of first come first served. So let's see an example of priority algorithm. So you can see there are 4 processes, P1, P2, P3, P4. So at time 0 we only have P1, so P1 is executed. As this example is of non-preemptive, P1 won't be removed from the CPU, so P1 completes its execution. At time 6 we have 3 more processes, P2, P3, P4, but the priority of P4 is the highest, so P4 is executed first. Then the priority of P2 is more than P3, so P2 is executed, and at last P3 is executed. We can calculate the turnaround time and waiting time, and at last we calculate the average waiting time, that is 5.56. Now see an example of preemptive priority algorithm. So in this process we will preempt if the process has higher priority comes when another process is executing. So at time 0 P1 is assigned the CPU and it starts executing. At time 2 P2 comes, but P1 is still executing, so the CPU is taken from P1 and P2 is assigned the CPU as its priority is higher than P1. Then it keeps on executing until P4 arrives. As P4 priority is more than P2, P2 is removed from the CPU and P4 is assigned the CPU and P4 starts executing. P4 completes its execution at time 10, and then the next higher priority is seen. P2 has the next higher priority, so P2 is completed at time 16. Then P1 and P3 have the same priority, so we see which one come first. On the basis of first come first serve, P1 is executed first and completes its execution at time 20, and at last P3 is executed, which completes its time execution at time 28. Similarly, we calculate the turnaround time and waiting time for each process, in this case also using the formula turnaround time is equal to completion time minus arrival time, and waiting time is equal to turnaround time minus CPU burst. And last, calculate the average waiting time, that is equal to 8.25. The last algorithm that we are going to see is round robin algorithm. Round robin algorithm is also a preemptive algorithm. In this, we have a thing called time quantum, that is also called as time slice. Once a process is executed or for a given period of time, it is removed from the CPU and another process starts executing. It keeps on going on until all the processes are executed. So we see how this works using an example. So we have 4 processes, P1, P2, P3, P4, P5. At time 0, we have P1. At time 2, we have P2. At time 5, we have P3, and at time 6, we have P4. Let's assume the time slice be of size 3. So let's start. First, P1 is executed from 0 to 3. As the time slice completes, the next process is entered into the CPU and P1 is removed from the CPU. Then P2 executes from 3 to 6, then P3 from 6 to 9, then P4 9 to 12. Then again it goes around and comes to back to P1. This goes on until all the processes are executed. You can see P1 completes its execution at 15, then the process is assigned to the next process, that is P2, then P3, and at time 22, as P4 requires only one more CPU burst, it starts its execution at 21 and completes at 22. Then it leaves the CPU and is assigned to the next process which hasn't completed. Since P1 has completed its execution, it won't get the CPU, and P2 gets the CPU at 22 and completes its execution 25, and then P3 is assigned. P3 completes its execution at 27, and at last P2 completes its execution at 28. Similarly, like before, we can calculate the turnaround time and waiting time for this example also, and at last we can see that average waiting time is calculated using the similar formula. So the average waiting time is 12.75. So this is all from my side. Thank you for watching. Bye.